It's time for the scoreboard with Greg Glasscock.
Welcome out to another edition of Beyond the Blitz, the scoreboard. I want to welcome in Mr. Greg Glasscock. How are you, Mr. Greg?
Great. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Well, somebody's in trouble somewhere. Thankfully, it's not me. Hard to believe this is the last week of region play.
Yeah, it is. This is very hard to believe. So, going to be interesting to see how this week plays out. See how the final standings come out for the playoffs, and then get ready to get into the playoffs. So this week we're going to cover week 8, and we'll go over the scores from week 8. Just hit a couple highlights, and then we're going to jump into the preview for the playoffs and what we're currently seeing based off the standings. Mainly for Region 5, Region 8 in Class 5A. So let's jump into last week. So last week for Week 8 scores, so Geraldine and DAR both had a bye week, so they were off. Fife would travel to Holly Pond. They would win 54-14. Plainview would travel to New Hope. They would win 48-7. Collinsville traveled to Brindley Mountain. They won 52-7. Sylvania traveled to Asbury. They won 47-6. Aberville would go to Bob Jones again on that tough road schedule they're on right now in 7A. They would lose 48-0. Fairview would travel to Sardis to give us a little bit of this preview that we were talking about last week, Greg, on this crossover between Regions 7 and 8 and 5A. Fairview being number 1 in their region. Sardis very easily could be a 3 or 4 spot, but just because of some bad luck there in some late games there, and again that bad luck would carry over into this late game. Sardis would lead early throughout this game by at some points 2 touchdowns, and Fairview was up 41-33 there on Sardis. They would score late there to go up, and then Sardis would turn around and drive down there in the last few minutes of the ball game and would actually score to make it 41-39. They would go for the 2-point conversion, and it would get knocked down in the end zone, Greg, to end up making the final there, 41-39. Sardis would try an onside kick, but wouldn't be able to get it. So just another late game there, last minute there. Sardis would lose another one, just heartbreaking, man. I mean, like I said, they could have very easily been a 3 seed in this region, and gave Fairview, the number 1 seed in Region 7, a big run for their money on that one. Brewer would travel to Douglas. Douglas would win that one 49-22. So then we're going to get into the last 2 games here that we had. We had Guntersville was hosting Boaz. So, Greg, if you'll cover that game. I know that was a big one there to kind of play out there for the 1 through 4 seeds for Region 8 there.
Yeah, it was huge, and I know you'll probably get into Scottsboro, which ended up sewing up the leading Abraham. Going into the ninth, Guntersville had actually an outside shot to hitting the 1 seed. If Scottsboro would have lost, and Guntersville would have won out. Of course, Scottsboro won, but it's still huge for Guntersville and Boaz because the winner of that game would have had the 2 seed and get to, of course, host in the first round. So, being senior night and also losing to Boaz last week, which is the cause for Guntersville going on the road last year with a 9-1 record, needless to say, they had a bit of a chip on their shoulder. I think going into that game, it showed is the beginning of the game. I think each team was kind of feeling each other out, and then midway through the first quarter, Boaz's quarterback Bo Bennett threw an interception, first I think career interception for Caleb Cobb, which has played great on defense. He carried it down to about the 18-yard line. Unfortunately for Guntersville, they had to settle for a 27-yard Brandon McInerney field goal, but with 3:32 left in the first, they were up 3-0. Then they struck again the next time they had the ball. Guntersville scored on almost every possession of the evening. 6 plays, 49 yards. Street Smith, the first of his 4 touchdowns on the night as he showed out on senior night, a 1-yard run. And with just over 9 minutes to go in the first half, they were up 10-0. Boaz came back with 6 minutes to go in the quarter. 31-yard field goal. It seems like Boaz keeps growing good field goal kickers. And it was 10-3. And then with this was what I thought was a couple of daggers right here with 2:17 left in the half. Guntersville had a 7-play, 68-yard drive capped off by Street Smith's 7-yard run. They went up 17-3. And then with just 37 seconds to go in the half, 5 plays, 52 yards. Smith from 13 yards out, and it was 24-3 at the half. And if you're a Guntersville fan, you thought things were looking real good, but to Boaz's credit, they didn't give up. I had mentioned at halftime that Boaz's first offensive drive, as they got the ball, they deferred at the coin toss, so they got the ball to begin the second half, and I was thinking, okay, down 24-3. I really think Boaz has to score a touchdown on this drive. It was kind of a bittersweet type deal, I guess you could say. They had a great drive. The only problem is they ate up well over half the clock. And they are not exactly what I would call a come-from-behind team. So 15 plays, 80 yards. You got to give them credit there. Presley found a 5-yard runs, but with 4:30 left on the clock. So, roughly it was a 7.5-minute drive. So it got them to within 24-10, but it also ate up a ton of the third quarter. And Guntersville had definitely a well-rested offense to come out. They came out pretty strong. They got a 43-yard field goal by Manganeris, 1:56 to go, that stretched it out to 27-10. Is what they want to do, is at least stretch it out to that 3-score lead again. Then Boaz came back on the final play of the third quarter, a bit of a busted coverage in Guntersville secondary as Bo Bennett found Porter for a 43-yard pass. It culminated an 8-play, 65-yard drive, and it was 27-17 going into the fourth quarter. So I was thinking, okay, we've still got us a ball game here. And then the teams in the fourth quarter kind of went back and forth, and to put it away with 4 minutes to go in the game, 12 plays, 69-yard Street Smith from 6 yards out to ice the game with a final score of 34-17. Chris, I really think, Fance had a great year. I think Guntersville did about as well on it as anybody. I'm showing he only had 89 yards on 25 carries.
That's not. Now, it was one of the things we said it was going to be key for Guntersville to win. They had to keep him under 100.
Yeah, the thing about it, and I even mentioned it in the pregame show, Guntersville's run defense this year has not been good. Edmondson ran wild for Scottsboro, but to respond and hold Fant to 89 yards, I thought was really making a statement. Bo Bennett was 14 of 23 passing for 158 yards, a touchdown and interception. So I think that's kind of pedestrian-like numbers for Bennett, because I know he can really fling it. So overall, I'm proud of what Guntersville did, kind of like Scottsboro, bouncing back after the unexplainable loss at home to Brewer. You wondered how Guntersville would bounce back after the defeat at Scottsboro to wrap up a host in the first round, and I thought they did a good job of that. A good win against a good Boaz team, and I think Boaz, with overall a young team under Coach Pruitt, I think they're just going to get better and better. I think he's definitely building for the future there.
Yeah, it was interesting. Y'all had a small little debacle there early on, I heard on the radio, where you had a brief little timeout. Y'all had to do a little swap out there, didn't you? You want to go into that a little bit?
Well, it was an interesting first quarter and a very long first quarter. I joked in the pregame that the Arab Scottsboro game could be over when we're at half, and I'm thinking they could be over by the time we end this first quarter, because I didn't know what was going on. There was a couple of, once again, very strange. Guntersville's been involved in a lot of strange measurement games this year, and it happened again. And there was this one measurement where the White Hat went to talk to Coach Pruitt, Then he came over to talk to Coach Reese, and of course we're in the press box thinking, what is going on? So I had my sideline reporter, Dr. Bogus, check into it. And come to find out, something was said by one of the chain gang members, and he got ejected. Can't say I've ever heard of that, which I did talk to the official in the press box, and he said, oh yeah, it happens, just not a whole lot. But I actually, of all things, I ran into this guy in Walmart in Arab on Saturday, and we got to talking about it. You know, I don't guess it really matters, but basically there was some unpleasantries that was said supposedly from the Boaz coaching staff to him and a relative he had that was playing. So, of course, he said something back, and I always say, you know, two wrongs don't make a right by any means, but, you know, the referee isn't going to eject the coach for it, but they'll quickly eject the chain gang member. So that's kind of what happened there. Hopefully it's water under the bridge and it'll never happen again. Actually, the guy told me, you know, he wished he never said it. I think it's kind of the heat of the moment, probably type deal. Needless to say, he told me the Boaz sideline, or the fans were giving him down the road as he had to leave, which I imagine that was not real fun, having to, you know, getting ejected. This guy's done chains for over 10 years at Guntersville. So a bit of an unfortunate and very odd situation, and that was all in the first quarter, like the first few minutes of the game. So I was thinking, okay, this could be a very long night. Thankfully for me, the game sped up after they got all that squared away, and it was a well-played game. You know, good sportsmanship on both sides throughout the game.
Yeah, I know. I was listening to that game while I was at the Scottsboro Arab game, and I was listening to it. And when Scottsboro and Arab finished the first half, so did Sardis and Fairview, or first quarter. I'm sorry. They both finished the first quarter about the same time. And y'all were still 9 minutes left in the first quarter. And I was like, y'all, they're not going to get done until 10 o'clock tonight. Like, what's going on? And then y'all was talking about what happened. And I was like, yeah, what exactly did happen? So I thought maybe if you want to kind of give a little in brief on that for those that maybe were there or whatever. But
yeah, it was supposedly some words that were not exactly PG rated, you know, that were said from supposedly the Boaz coaches, and chain gang member, you know, kind of fired back. So it was a long break, and everybody in the press box, and I think for a while the officials up there were like, what is going on? Because, you know, the Wildcats spent a lot of time with each head coach on each sideline. We finally got word of what was going on. I'm thinking, okay, I guess that's a first for me. I hadn't heard of that one before. But,
I've seen them get ejected before for yelling at the officials because of stuff, and them toss a chain gang guy for that. But nothing where they got into it with the opposing coaches, so.
Yeah, then the coach reported it to the White Hat, and of course the White Hat had to talk to Reese about it. Then we had to wait a few minutes for a replacement. It kind of reminded me of the days, Chris, this year I helped out a lot with Pee Wee, with Sardis' Pee Wee, and the first announcement I would have to make before every game is, okay, we need volunteers for the chain gang when we can get this game started. I'm thinking, my goodness, I feel like I'm back at a Pee Wee game meeting chain gang members. So it was interesting, to say the least.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate you giving us that update on that. We'll jump into this Scottsboro Arab game, and then we'll jump back over. We'll start talking about what we got matchups wise and what we see for this next week. So like you said, I was at the Scottsboro Arab game. Be honest with you, Greg, the opening, right off the bat set the tone for the game. The opening kickoff, 80 yards to the house by Quincy Franklin for Scottsboro to put them up 7-0 right off the bat. Arab would go 3 and out, and Scottsboro would go 3 and out both on their next series. Scottsboro would get the ball after another 3 and out by Arab and drive down and get it in the red zone, but they would fumble it at the 6-yard line, and the ball would be recovered by Zach Hallman at Arab. Arab would make a drive but have to punt and pin Scottsboro inside on the 10-yard line there, right around the 8-yard line. Scottsboro would then turn around and punt on that drive to Arab, and Unfortunately, though, on this next series, though, Arab's quarterback would get hurt. Nick Stevens would get hurt after a huge hit on a quarterback run. They'd have to send in the backup. They'd have to send in Paxton Phillips. Paxton was just a ninth grader. He played a lot of JV time, but never seen him take any snaps on varsity yet this year, so he had to go in. But honestly, the kid done really good. Done really good. Let him down the field there. Got him down to the 40-yard line, and they were running a little RPO there with the running back, and had just a little bit of a botch there with the exchange there. It looked like Paxton wanted to hold on to it, and the running back just didn't turn loose of it. And they kind of got a little bit of an exchange there. The ball would pop loose, and Scottsboro would recover it there on the 40. And so then they would go from there, run a couple plays, then they would turn around and score on a 34-yard TD run by Gilbert to go up 14-0 with 3 minutes left in the half. Arab would get the ball back, and Stevens would come back in after that series. Not really sure what happened to him. I think he just got a little shook up. I think he got his bell rung, because I'm going to be honest with you, it was a hard hit. Like, the whole crowd completely, like, it was wild the way he got hit. But he come back in, seemed fine, because he come back in, and within just a couple of plays, he threw a 40-yard pass to freshman wide receiver Owen Lambert to get him down to the Scottsboro 26-yard line. But unfortunately, kind of the same tone that we saw all night with Arab. They would get the ball down in Scottsboro territory, sometimes even in the red zone, and they just couldn't punch it in. But this particular time, they would go for it on fourth down, and the pass would get knocked down in the end zone. And that's where we would go at the half, would be 14-0. Arab would come back, though, and they would get the ball to start the second half and would by far make the best drive that they've made all night long. They would drive it down, get it inside there, get it to the 17-yard line, and Landon Pitt would put it in from there to put them down 14-7. But Scottsboro would turn right back around and answer on their next drive. They would complete a 30-yard pass on a reverse pass to get the ball down to the 8-yard line after a missed coverage by Arab. If you see it on film, you see the safety just gets burnt. I mean, he was reading reverse the whole time. After talking to some of the guys and stuff, they said that was kind of, they knew that when number 28 from Scottsboro goes in, and we saw this with them too, Greg, when they played Guntersville, 28's in, if he touches the ball, it's a reverse pass. He never runs it. He's a little lefty. They'll run a reverse, and he throws it downfield. And Guntersville got burnt on it one time, but they got burnt for a pass interference on it, I think. I can't remember if it's that or if he actually caught it on the sideline, but Guntersville got hit for it. Arab did learn. Their safety got burnt. He was 15 yards behind him when he caught it, and nobody came anywhere close to him when he scored. So that would put Scottsboro up 21-7 with 3:30 left. Arab would then turn around and turn the ball over on downs at midfield on the next possession, and Scottsboro would score on a 21-yard pass to Thompson on another breakdown in coverage. This one, the kid just made a good move, and he burnt the corner on the other side there, and they ended up scoring. And that would put it at 28-7 with 4:30 left to go in the ball game. And it was just that's what it was. That's where it ended. So you have the one big play to start it off. Scottsboro go up 7-0. Two broken coverages. The one time they really drove down and scored, I mean, it was a legit, they ran the ball. Guy just broke a big run, 34 yards out around the end, and it was just a good play. But you look back at it, if Arab can stop a couple of those mistakes there in coverage, and then especially on the kickoff return, that was a coverage issue too. The kid on the outside that was supposed to be contained was about 7 yards too deep, and he got double teamed and got blowed past the line, and the guy just kicked it out around the end. So couple situations like that, if they can stop that, and then if they can just put the ball in the end zone, they're getting the ball downfield, they're getting it down there in the opponent's end of the field, but they just couldn't do anything with it all night. So kudos to Scottsboro's defense. They've done a really good job of forcing Arab to a lot of 3rd and long or even 3rd and 3. And they stopped them. But I'm gonna tell you something too. Kudos to Scottsboro's offense, because they were 3rd and 1, I think 3 or 4 times in this ball game, and they ran the same play every time. And they would run a little quarterback dive. He would snap it, spin back around to the backfield to his right hand side like he was going to toss it to the halfback, and then he would turn around and immediately spin right back up into the pile. And the line already had him 2 yards cleaned up, and he would gain 4 or 5 yards on that play every time.
Oh, that bro strength is a line play.
Definitely is. So, kudos to Arab's defense, though. Their defense done really good. They had 2 turnovers on the night. They forced 2 fumbles. Just couldn't do anything with them. And then on top of that, they shut the running back down. I mean, I think he only had around 150 to 175 yards. So they done really good. He had under 20 carries on the game. They just offensively, just like we saw most of the year, they sputtered all night and just really could not get anything going. This week's going to be key though, and they're going to have to do something this week. So with that, looking at the region, so we're only Region 7 real quick. Region 7, Fairview's still at the top overall with a 5-0 region record. You have Priceville and Russellville, which will play each other at, I believe it's at Russellville. It's at Russellville this week. Russellville's going to travel to Russellville for the 2 seed. Both of them are tied at 4 and 1. Pretty much whoever wins this game, it's going to lock it up this week. That's going to make them the 2 seed, because down you drop down then to the 4 and the 5 seed. There's a tie there between Ardmore and West Point. Currently Ardmore's at the top because of their overall record being better. But I believe Ardmore travels to West Point this week as well. So that easily could turn around and you could be, Fairview, Priceville, Russellville, and then West Point could slide in there if they can beat Ardmore. It's going to be interesting. So, but right now, that's kind of where that one stands, is Fairview, Priceville, Russellville, Ardmore, West Point. Lawrence County and East Limestone have pretty much been eliminated. They don't have enough wins region-wise to get in, so they're out.
So really, in Region 7 this week, we need to keep an eye on those 2 games. One of them will decide 2-3, and the other will decide 4.
Yeah, because Fairview's pretty much in. I think Fairview has East Limestone. Yes, they travel to East Limestone. Shouldn't be a problem. East Limestone hasn't won a game in region play yet this year. And the way Fairview's running the ball and putting it up, I figure it'd be a 28-point win for them. I don't see any issues there with them winning that game. So, Region 8, so you got Scottsboro currently is at the top right now at 5 and 1. They're on a bye week this week, so they've pretty much locked up that spot in region play. Guntersville's at 2 at 4 and 1. Boaz and Arab are currently tied in the 3 spot there. Boaz has the overall head though, because of the overall win-loss in that. But they're going to play each other, so whoever wins it's going to lock in that 3 spot there after this week. Douglas, unfortunately, is in the 5 slot. They're at 2 and 3, so they're going to be pretty much out after this week. So, and then you got Brewer and Sardis. They're at the end. So, so looking at this week, we have Scottsboro again. Like I said, number 14, Scottsboro in 5A. They're going to be on bye week. Covering some of the other games in some other regions in the area. So you got another big game that's going to be in DeKalb County. This is another big region battle here, Greg. It's going to be 3 and 3A 5 traveling the number 5 3A Geraldine. It's going to be should be a pretty good game, but now I'm going to be honest with you. I know Geraldine has a lot of players that are hurt right now, so that should give Fife a little bit of a leg, but I know Geraldine's had Fife's number the last few years. I think 2 out of 3 years they've beat them, so be interesting to see how Benefield handles that one and they play out on that. I know this is going to be pretty big stakes for them in the 3A playoffs. So,
tell you what, I'd be there, Chris, if it was my open date.
Yes. Well, there. Or I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I would go to that one. I think I would go to this one. And that's number 5 in 4A. Madison Academy's traveling to number 6 in 4A, Plainview. Plainview's not lost yet. They're undefeated. They're 8-0 going into this week. Madison Academy's only lost 1 game.
It's for the championship, isn't it?
This is for the region. Yeah, so you got 2 region championships going on in DeKalb County this week. So either one, for viewers up in that way, either one of those games should be a pretty good game. I think if I'm 1-1, I'm going to go watch that Plainview Madison Academy. Only because I think 5 has a slight edge. I think Geraldine's they're a little beat up right now, and they don't have enough to be able to beat 5. That's just me. That's opinion. So,
game. Where is it at again? Is it at Rainsville or is it on the road?
Yes, that's at Plainview. They're going to host it in Rainsville. So
that'll be big then.
Yeah. So that should be a big game. I'm curious to see how that one plans out. So, next up, you got Asbury traveling to Whitesburg Christian. Madison County is going to travel to DAR. Aberville on that tough 7A schedule again. They're going to James Clements. Greg, it's going to be another rough one for them. So, yeah. And then jumping into the Region 7 games of 5A. We're going to be tracking these just to kind of see the crosses for the playoff for Region 8 in our area that we've got. So you got Priceville again's going to Russellville. Ardmore is going to West Point for that final number 4 slot there to see who's going to seal out the last position in the playoffs. And then you got Fairview traveling to East Limestone, just basically trying to close it out and be the number 1 overall seed. So then in Region 8, you've got Sardis traveling to Brewer. And then you've got Guntersville at number 9 in 5A. They're going to travel to Douglas. And then you got Arab traveling to number 15 in 5A, Boaz. So, Greg, I don't know what your thoughts are. We can kind of jump in a little bit on these 5A games. What's your thoughts on this Ardmore West Point game? Any idea, anything you looked at it on that?
Really, those 2 big Region 7 games, since I haven't seen any of them in person, I think I would give the advantage in both of them to the home team. I do think West Point, I'll put it this way, I'll be surprised if West Point loses to Ardmore. Now, the Priceville-Russellville game could really go either way. I know Priceville took it on the chin, 2 or 3 weeks ago to Fairview, which pretty much everybody has. Oddly enough, Sardis is the team, but I think has played Fairview the closest, really should have beat them this year. But, that's a game, non-region, was Fairview looking ahead? Who knows? But I think those Region 7 games, I definitely give the edge to the home teams, and I'll definitely keep an eye on both of those during my broadcast. In Region 8, I know you're going to be at Boaz, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's a huge game for that 3-4. I mean, the winner is going to go to, either Russellville or Priceville. Meanwhile, the loser will definitely go to Fairview in that 1-4 matchup. I do think in this game I would give the edge to Boaz. Not only being at home, but I think they just have more firepower than Arab. But I'll definitely keep up with that while I'm down at Douglas this week.
All right, so you think Russellville's got the win over Priceville? You think West Point's over at Ardmore, of course, Fairview? What do you think about the Sardis Brewer game?
Well, they're playing out the string, and if I'm not mistaken, that's at Brewer.
Mm-hmm.
Brewer's been an odd team to figure out, especially with the Scottsboro win. Of course, Scottsboro could have been looking ahead to, on their schedule. I mean, you're dealing with teenagers, so who knows? We talk about college teams with unexplainable wins and losses looking ahead, so that's a game where, deep down, I really want Sardis to win. I mean, that community's been through a lot. Quite frankly, I think Sardis should have beat Fairview, Boaz, and Arab. So they could have a pretty good little resume going into this game. Instead, they're winless in the region. They've got the 1 win in I think it was good. You got to go back to week 2 against Cleveland County. it's going to be a game with both teams. It's their last game of the year, I think, or at least for Sardis. I think Sardis has, oddly enough, a bye week in week 10. I think Brewer still has a non-region game left, but this is the last game of the year for Sardis, last region game for both teams. I think it's going to come down, I know it sounds weird, just kind of who wants it more. I mean, I would assume it's Brewer's senior night. I don't know if Brewer's at home or on the road next week for their non-region game, but I don't know. Chris, I kind of like Sardis in this spot, going on the road, get the win for some odd reason. I think it might be because Sardis has been so close. I think they're finally going to get one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm like you. I'm gonna take Russellville over Priceville. Russellville is the only other team that's played Fairview close outside of Sardis. Russellville was within a touchdown of them, and they actually come back. They were down, I think, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they came back and scored 2 in the fourth quarter to make it close. So I'm gonna take Russellville over Priceville. That West Point Ardmore game, I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's a coin flip. I don't honestly know who to take on that one. West Point has played some really close games, but I know Ardmore's won, a lot of their games they've had chances at, so I think it's a coin flip on that one. The Fairview game, Fairview should, like I said, they should win that one by at least 3 touchdowns on that one. Sardis Brewer, I'm going with Sardis. They've had too many close ones to not win one. If they lose it, I'll say it this way. If they lose it, it's close again. It's going to be a last-minute drive by Brewer because that's been the motto all year long. That's how they've lost it.
Brewer, though, that's always, you got to keep in the back of your mind, too. They can put up some points now.
They can, but I'm going to be honest with you. Sardis has been good about shutting some people down this year, too.
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah, I like Sardis finally getting a region win because, boy, that community and team has been through so much this year, not only on the field, but the off-the-field catastrophe and stuff. And, yeah, I like Sardis finishing with a bang because, I mean, this is their last game. It's kind of odd that a team has a bye week in week 10. I think maybe the only time that could really be beneficial is maybe before the playoffs. Of course, a lot of teams don't want to lose momentum going into the playoffs, which, I mean, Sardis isn't going. But what do you think of the overall bye on week 10? I just don't really care for it.
I don't know. Fife's got it.
Oh, does Fife have a bye?
Fife's got a bye in week 10.
Well, maybe it works out for some teams. I think going into the playoffs, you kind of would want to keep that momentum going. Of course, you got some key people banged up.
That's what I'm thinking.
It could also be good going into the playoffs with a week of rest.
That's what I'm thinking because, like with Guntersville's instance, you had camp, If that gives you one more week that camp ain't going to take no hits, you know what I mean? Coming off that injury he had a few weeks ago, that gives you a week that he gets to rest, and then you go into the playoffs with a kid rather than at 60%, he's at 80-85%. You can do a lot more damage with him,
And I don't know if I told you, Chris, about camp either, what happened in the Boaz game. Poor guy, senior, he just can't catch a break, and I figure he'll probably be held out to the playoffs. I hope he can come back. He suffered a shoulder injury against Boaz and went to the hospital. And from what I understand, they had to pop it in place. Now, I know when you pop a shoulder back in, I've heard cases where sometimes you're good to go after it. I mean, thankfully, I haven't had anything like that happen to me. So it'll be interesting to see what the staff does with Douglas this week and Albertville next week. You just completely shut him down until that week one, playoff.
Yeah, definitely. So, jumping back over with talking about Guntersville, I think Guntersville should beat Douglas. A lot of it depends on how does Guntersville go into this game because it is at Douglas. Douglas has got nothing to lose right now. I think they throw the whole barn at you.
Go open up the playbook, beginning to finish. As Guntersville goes in with a good mindset, they should be fine, but it can't be one of these where they just show up, because I'm thinking about it, they can't lose the 2 seed.
Yeah.
But also, you don't want to finish your regular season going to the playoffs not playing good football. So they need to finish the string with Douglas and then Albertville playing strong, even though I know it's going to be hard in those two games possibly to really get up for them. But Douglas is an improving program. I saw where Coach Lyles in that win against Brewer is now the winningest coach for Douglas. He's a hometown boy. He does a great job there. A lot of offensive firepower. Like you said, it will be at Douglas. They'll be ready. It'll be like their Super Bowl or something. They're not going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So this will be a huge, huge game for Douglas. So we'll just have to see how does Guntersville enter the game mentally.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely want to give a shout out. I was about to do the exact same thing, give a shout out to Coach Lyles. I've known Coach Lyles for many years now. Was a chaplain for his football team. His first few years, he was there for about 4 years. To see what he's done in 6 years, and he surpassed some guys that was there for 15 years or longer, and he's done it in 6 years, tells what he's done with that program and that community. Is phenomenal. And so just definitely want to say congrats, Coach. Doing a fantastic job there. And as always, you never know, man. That's why I said Guntersville can't go in there asleep, because, he's got the skill position guys that can put some points up, and it's just, can they minimize turnovers? Because I'll tell you right now, they can go shot for shot where Douglas can. It's just, can they minimize the turnovers? That's what's hurt them in previous games, is turnovers. So if they can minimize the turnovers and not lose the turnover battle, they can give Guntersville a run for their money, I honestly believe. So I'm curious to see how they play against them.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be on the call Friday night.
Yeah. Yeah, so Arab Boaz, I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to come down to a couple things there. Can Arab run the ball? First and foremost, if they can't run the ball against Boaz, it's going to be a long night. Nick Stevens has done a phenomenal job at quarterback. For it to be his first year and he's had to come in there replacing Fushio, he's done a phenomenal job. Kid loves to run the ball. He'll run it. He ain't afraid to stick it between the tackles or break it out around the end, whatever when he needs to on that RPO. But we've got to have some play from the halfbacks. We've got to have some consistency out of those guys. If we can have that, it's been setting up the pass plays. They've got some receivers downfield that's been making some plays at receivers. So it's going to be interesting. To be honest with you, it's going to come down to a couple things there with Arab. If they can shut down Fant, they got to be able to shut down Fant. They got to be able to keep him down. But for Arab, the biggest thing is offensively, they got to get going. They got to have some big play out of the running game. They got to get some pressure to Bennett, and they got to watch Sage Bennett when he's back there at quarterback defensively. So they're going to have to watch on some of those plays, and otherwise they're going to get burnt like they did this week. So, but they're going to have to really be aggressive and get out there and just want to punch the ball through Boaz's mouth, basically, if they want to win this game. That's just how it's going to have to come down to. So if Boaz can keep Arab in them third and longs or even third down situations based off of the efficiency that the Arabs had on third down, which has been very, very low, Boaz has a really good chance of winning this game and being the 3 seed. So this week, Greg, either way, it's going to be a flip up. But looking ahead, I think Arab has a shot, but it's at Boaz, so that's going to be the tough thing. I'm going to go to it's going to come down to whoever's got the offense. Defensively, it's going to come down to who has the offense. Both teams have the defense. It's going to be whose offense is more efficient on Friday night between the two of them, and that just depends on who shows up. So, but looking at the North region, so right now as things sit, at the top of the North region right now, currently, if things were to not change, Fairview would host Arab in the 1-4 slot there of region 7 and 8. Then in the next bracket down below that, you would have Ramsey at Jacksonville. Ramsey would host Jacksonville. Scottsboro would host Ardmore. St. Clair County would host Briarwood Christian. Moody would host GW Carver of Birmingham. Guntersville would host Russellville. Corner would host Leeds, and Prosville would host Boaz. Looking at that, Greg, just, taking a peek out through there, Scottsboro's got potential to make a deep run, at least into the Elite Eight. As it holds now, Region 5 and 6 are very up in the air. There's several teams that are tied at 1. They've got games this week that are going to really solidify those regions, and kind of square out the 2, 3, 4 slots to kind of really see who's going to be where. But that Region 5 with Ramsey, Briarwood Christian, GW Carver, that's going to be interesting with Corner and all them in there. But then again, Region 6 is as well with Moody. Moody's been top 2 all year. So you got the top half of the region there. Scottsboro could easily make a run. I could see Scottsboro getting out there and being in the Elite Eight to have to face Ramsey. I don't know that Fairview or Arab, either one, can get past Ramsey. Ramsey's going to be tough, and the only way that it really plays is if Fairview hosts them. That plays a little bit in their favor, but still, Ramsey, man's always a tough draw.
Yeah, they always do well in the playoffs. I mean, it's almost like you can't go against them in the playoffs.
Yeah. So right now, Scottsboro is going to do one of two things. They're either going to host Ardmore or West Point. It depends on how that game falls out, but I easily see Scottsboro going on. Then they're going to face St. Clair County or Briarwood Christian. Scottsboro should easily make it to the Elite Eight. I think they have the power to get there.
Tell you what, though, I haven't seen them in person, and it kind of stuck up on me, but I will say in the latest poll, St. Clair County's ranked like 5th.
Yeah,
There's one loss, so don't let them sneak up on you. I haven't seen them, but sounds like they're a pretty good team.
Yeah, they're up there, that's for sure. They're a tough little team. And I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't sleep on them either. But Scottsboro is a different one to have to deal with. They're ranked number 7 in the state right now, so is where they are. So
one thing that'll be interesting with Scottsboro too, staying healthy and focused. I mean, they got the bye week, but next week they host one of the best teams in the state in any classification, First Hill Bible. And if that game ends up being on a Thursday night instead of Friday, I'm going to go to it. I know a lot of games that week 10 are on Thursday. My prediction is Scottsboro will lose that game at home. Doesn't mean anything as far as region or playoffs, but Scottsboro will need to get out of that game healthy, and it's going to be a tough one. It ain't no cupcake they're playing Big 10.
Definitely. So then jumping into the bottom half of the North Region bracket, you got Moody there with GW Carver. The winner of that game would go on and play Guntersville. The Guntersville, either Russellville or Prosville game, depending on who falls out there in that one. Being honest with you, if it goes off our prediction, it looks like Guntersville's going to host Prosville, which should give Guntersville a little bit of a leg up. I think Guntersville can get past Prosville pretty easily, but the problem is they draw Moody at Moody.
Yeah,
that's rough.
That's going to be very tough.
Yeah, it's bad enough you're playing Moody, but you got to go to Moody. Moody's top 3 in the state. That's a tough draw right there. Yeah. Then you get on down to the next section of the bottom of the bracket. You got Corner, which is again a top 10 team in the state. They would be hosting Leeds if that holds between regions 5 and 6 where they're at currently. Again, those two are very, very easily one game could flip the entire region there this week. So, and then you have Priceville at Boaz. And again, like we said, if it goes off prediction, that would actually be Russellville would be hosting Boaz. So tough draw would be there for Boaz to have to go to Russellville. I think Boaz would have a better shot with Priceville. I think Boaz could get by Priceville pretty easily, but Russellville's going to be a tough draw, especially having to go to Russellville. But Boaz potentially could make a little bit of a run there. They could get in and could make a little bit of a run just depending on who they would draw the next round. So, So I'm curious to see how this week plays out, Greg. We'll adjust the brackets and stuff after Friday night, and we'll go from there. So, any final words or anything?
Looking forward to it. This will be the last week of region play, and next week all the playoffs will be set. We'll get through next week's non-region week and then get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, most definitely. So appreciate you jumping in and giving us some insight here on what we've got. And as always, every week, I appreciate it. Definitely want to give a shout out to Mr. Steven Spiegel. He's back here in the background. Everybody don't see him. Want to tell him thank you and appreciate all his help, helping us with getting these filmed each week and everything. So as for that, guys, I hope you have a great week, and good luck to all the teams on Friday night. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Beyond the Blitz, the Scoreboard.
See y'all.